So there's a lot being made about this John Gruden situation, and I've read and heard a couple of the stories, and people talk about it. And some people are saying it's no big deal. Some people are saying that they have never heard him say a racist thing as long as they've been knowing him. But a lot of other people feel differently about John Gruden. And I guess that's the thing that pretty much gets me. You know, when he said what he said about DeMaurice Smith, that was no problem with that. You know, he went out and coached a football game. That was wild. That was a while back when they were going through the collective bargaining agreement thing. Uh, when he said, what he said in those emails about Jeff Fisher and things of that nature. I mean, that was a while back. Some of that stuff was back as far as 2010, 2011. But what was in those emails that was the straw that broke the camel's back, or whose back did that straw get on? Where it was like, that's the last straw. See, he made someone upset, and you don't. As they always say, it's not about what you know; it's who you know. Yeah, a lot of times it's not what you do; it's who you do it to. I totally agree with that because it's some things you can say to certain people, they wouldn't have a problem with it at all. But others, you say it to them, and you might have to fight. You might have to see the police. You might have to see their family. You might have to see them day after day. Every time you turn that corner, here they come, because it's not what you say, it's who you say it to a lot of times. I think that he was crazy for sending stuff like that to someone's corporate email. I mean, anybody that's worked in an office knows that everything is tracked, everything is kept. People have what they call um, a CYA folder, cover your actions folder. And some people have it, saving it for a rainy day. And, you as a person in a high position like that, you have to know that that kind of stuff can come back on you. I think he was crazy for saying any of that stuff, period. But saying it in an email to where it can be forwarded to everybody. I mean, he could forward that to a lot of people. Somebody could take his email and forward it on across the country, and everyone will have that opinion about him. And we're all entitled to our opinions. Excuse me, but people that are in positions of leadership and empower, you're held to a higher standard when it comes to what you can and can't say and how you can behave because you're a leader. So, and John Gruden being a coach of all those years and a Super Bowl head coach, fully understood what discipline was and how he needed to better behave himself. And he probably thought he was doing it amongst his peers, amongst friends, amongst people that he wouldn't have to worry about ratting him out. I mean, we all talk to people in confidence. We all say some things to people that we wouldn't say to other people because for that very same reason. They'll run back and tell somebody. But I mean, he learned a valuable lesson that you have to really be careful that when in the NFL, all bets are off. It's every man for themselves. So, it'll. I'm pretty sure he'll show up as a coach or something somewhere down the line. Somebody to give him a second chance, but I I think he was wrong for sending an email saying that in to Allen, to I think it was the guy that was for the Redskins. He was crazy. You put your job on the line for that. Well, hey man, he probably didn't know that years later he'd be a NFL head coach and have an opportunity, and then they would pop back up on him again, and he'd have to speak to it. He probably didn't think that, but I mean that might be a valuable lesson we all need to learn. You might not want to wild out at the front counter of McDonald's, and then a couple years later go and try to get a job at that same McDonald's. Somebody right might still work there, remember you when you come in and say, "Oh no, don't hire them." Matter of fact, we need to call the police because we were still looking for them. So If it's one thing that we can definitely learn from this is be careful, people. Be careful. Be respectful, but be careful. Don't keep it real all the time. Keep it real when it's safe. That's all I can say. Now, I'll tell you one interesting thing that I saw over the past weekend. I mean, we all knew this from all of us growing up watching sports, but you don't want to mess with Dion. You don't want to mess with primetime Coach Sanders. All I got to say, man, Coach Sanders, first of all, it was homecoming for Alabama A&M, and they scheduled Jackson State. And the score ended up being like 61 to 16, 61 to 15. I want to make sure I get the score right. But when they asked Coach Sanders about the score, he said, we should have left, we left points on the board. Yeah, 61 to 15. He said we left about 21 points we should have gotten, and we should only gave up 7. That's what Coach Sanders said. And it just makes me think about that old saying that they used to say back in the days, don't poke the bear. Before the game, Coach Sanders had a foot injury, so he was a scooter. He was using a scooter to get around. And the coach for Alabama A&M, Coach Connell said, "Hey, you need a scooter." And Coach Sanders heard it and said, "Yeah, we're gonna play off of that." So he got a pink scooter, autographed it, and said from Coach Sanders, "All my love, the best love," and put it on the field in the end zone at the end of the game. And so all the Jackson State players was taking pictures around the scooter, and then they left the scooter on the field. I mean, trash talking at its finest. That's what I'm talking about. See, back in our day, that's what we used to do. It was, it's called wolf tickets and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if a lot of you all remember, Deion Sanders would do stuff like point to the scoreboard when they out there on the field, and you want to trash talk him, and you get mad, he do something to make you mad, he point to the scoreboard. He's one of the first people that ever saw do that. I mean, when a man intercepts the pass and then runs down the field high stepping and holding the ball out to where you can't get it because you can't catch him, ain't no more trash talking than that. Especially when it comes to football, he's scoring on you and he's outrunning you. The only thing he didn't do was truck you to. I agree. So I asked this question online: Joe Montana or John Elway? And I guess I wasn't really surprised by the responses I got from it because I know a lot of people like Joe Montana. Joe Montana had a lot of Super Bowl rings, had more Super Bowl rings than John Elway had. And so I'll tell you how I feel about both. Now, Joe Montana played for the 49ers when I was growing up, and then he played for the Chiefs toward the end of his career. For years, I couldn't see Joe Montana play unless it was like the evening game or Monday Night Football or the playoffs started because, they played out west. And you didn't see a lot of the Rams, the LA Rams, or a lot of the Raiders games and things like that out in Alabama and Birmingham, where I was from. So you would get a chance to see Joe Montana destroy people in the playoffs or on the big stage like Monday Night Football. And it would just be ridiculous. The last minute drives, the just, destroying, carving people like a Thanksgiving turkey, just dissecting people, and Jerry Rice just catching it and taking it to the house, and Roger Craig high stepping through the middle and then running light out there, knocking that ball loose when anybody tried to catch it on defense. So for a long time, A lot of us watched Joe Montana play in the Super Bowl. We saw him beat the Bengals twice. We saw him beat who else that they played? They beat I can't think offhand right now who all Joe Montana and them beat for a Super Bowl. But I want to say he won like 6 Super Bowls. That's a lot. That's a lot compared to John Elway won 2. But now the thing about John Elway, you see John Elway out here going to the Super Bowl for like 4 years in a row. So you know they were destroying people. And he was one of those first running type throwing where it was accepted type quarterbacks in the NFL. He wouldn't run all the time. He run to get the first down and then, get tackled, or he run to get away from the pressure and then find somebody. But the thing about John Elway was don't leave any time left on the clock, because if you did, he was going to go down and get him in field goal range, or you put it in the box. And John Elway did that. We saw John Elway do that from the 80s all the way to the late 90s, to that last Super Bowl when he ran that touchdown in for the Broncos. So, we got a chance to see both really play. But Joe Montana won a lot more Super Bowls. He was in our houses for a lot longer than John Elway was when it came to playing for those championships. We partied a lot more to Joe Montana than we did to John Elway, because John Elway would lose. But Joe Montana would end up winning. So I really wasn't surprised when I saw a lot of people pulling for Joe Montana, because I understand. I like Joe Montana myself. And at the time, I was a big Joe Montana fan over John Elway. The one thing I did like about John Elway, I remember this. It was a reporter interviewing him when he was playing for the Broncos, and Joe Montana was playing for the Chiefs. And the reporter said, "So what do you think about, your long-term rivalry being, rekindled today?" He said, "Hey, I know we're going out, going to have a good time. I hope, it's going to be a good contest, and, hope the best man win." And then the reporter said, "All right, cut the cameras. What do you really think?" And John Elway said, "What do I really think? I hope I kick his ass." That forever stuck in my brain when it came to John Elway, because that's how I always felt when it came to competition. That's how I always felt. So that's why I like both. I actually like both John Elway and Joe Montana. But I can understand why people would, go for rings over John Elway.